What should we expect as Cubs fans from Luis Vasquez?
Not hyperbole. He's the best defensive shortstop I've seen at the minor league level. No joke.
Wow.
At this point of his career, he's better at short than O'Neal Cruz was and Ellie was.
Hey, Alex Cohen, man, the voice of the Iowa Cubs. Excited to have you on here on the Setup Man podcast. I want to jump right into it, but first of all, just want to thank you for taking some time after already a long baseball game for you today, 11 innings.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Whenever you have a 3.5-hour baseball game in 2024, feels a little bit different. It's a little bit more taxing, but anytime that the I-Cubs win, it's obviously fun. You know, Pete Crow Armstrong gets on base 4 times, steals 2 bases, and Cade Horton pitches well, and the I-Cubs win in extra innings. So it's not much more you could ask for that.
That's where I want to start, man. This was definitely, from my eyes, I watched the game today, listened to your broadcast. This felt like Cade Horton's best appearance as a Iowa Cubs so far. Is that how you saw it?
Yes, unequivocally.
Tell me what you saw.
Yeah, you get the 12 swings and misses. What I saw was he maintained fastball velocity, and I know that a lot of people were concerned that, it's not 96 to 98 like he apparently was last year. He was consistently 94 to 96, and his last fastball was just as hard as his first fastball. I really like the way that he threw his slider all throughout the entire course of the game. He made one mistake with that slider, gave up a solo home run in the second inning. But really, aside from that, just weak contact, 1 walk, about 65% strikes. And again, fastball velocity, 94 to 96. Also throwing the split changeup that he's been working on for strikes. When you strike out 6 and you get 12 swings and misses in that span of time, 5 innings, things are working pretty well for you.
So talk to me about the split change. I don't think I know about that. How long has he been working on that?
So we started working on it last year, really started throwing it in games at the beginning of this year, probably at around a 10% rate, but it's becoming an out pitch for him. I remember talking to Lance Brostowski, Marquee Sports Network, and he says, you'll see the fastball jumps out of the hand late life. Slider is a legit 70 pitch, but it's a split changeup that legitimately could be his out pitch in the big league. So if you add that to an already impressive 2-pitch arsenal, sky's the limit for Cade Horton because he's not the Paul Skeens 98 to 101 with the fastball. He's not a thoroughbred. He's not 6'6", 240 pounds. He's really athletic, 6'1", 200-pound righty. And I made the comparison today. Gives me some Tim Hudson vibes. And Tim Hudson throws 93 to 95, but he had a great curveball for Cade. It's a slider. And then the third pitch with the split change, he got, I think, 4 swings and misses on that late in count. So you could do that, combine that with the 2 already plus pitches. Look out.
What do you think as you've seen him progress so far in AAA? A lot of fans wanted to see him come in and dominate right away in AAA, but it looked like command was really the big thing. But especially talking to him, what do you think has evolved so far with him in his few starts here in AAA?
There's 2 things. One, you're working with a different baseball now in AA to AAA, so getting used to that new baseball, and that probably took him about 2 or 3 starts. And then also he's recognizing that the balls that were chased in AA, the sliders that he spiked in the dirt that people used to flare on and get swings and misses, you're not getting that in AAA. You're seeing guys like the I-Cubs had a player like David Peralta, 10 years in the big leagues, and you're seeing all these big league veterans / 4A players at the AAA level. They've seen 57-foot breaking balls in the dirt. They're not swinging. So being able to rebound from that, change eye levels, and be able to locate your secondary pitches, if it's lower outside, make it a competitive pitch so they will chase. So I think that's especially what he's done over the last 2 starts. Those sliders that were 57, 58 feet in the dirt, they're now low and outside, bat footing it, and getting some non-competitive swings on them.
I want to ask you, from your standpoint of watching Ben Brown last year and what he's done so far with the Cubs, how much fun has that been for you?
It's a blast. It's an absolute blast. One, he's just a wonderful human being. And 2, it's just high octane. Ball just jumps out of his hand. And I think last year he was dealing with the same thing that Cade Horton did, new baseball. And he recognized that if you elevate a fastball at the AAA level, they might hit it 450 feet. You do that at the AA level, you could still blow it by them. So I think he's realizing that his misses and his zone is a little bit smaller and his margin for error is a little bit smaller. But Yeah, with Ben, he's more of the thoroughbred. He's more of the 6'6" righty, throws an easy 97. Ball just snaps out of his hand. I mean, he was built with a golden right arm and a swimmer's body, so it's a really good combination. But seeing him succeed at the big league level is, and in a variety of different ways, as a starter, as a reliever, you give him the ball, he's going to get out. So that's been a blast to watch.
Swimmer's body and surfer hair, right?
Yeah,
There you go.
He's a fan of water.
There you go. The reason I bring up Ben Brown as well is because I proposed on my channel about a month ago when the Cubs were really having their major bullpen issues. Now they've kind of turned around this last week. Mm-hmm. But do you see, based on all the experience that you've seen so far of Cade Horton and Ben Brown, do you see those guys maybe potentially going the route of high inning or high leverage, late innings, potentially even closer here in 2024?
See, I mean, out of those two, I see a bigger opportunity for Ben to do that just because he can touch 99 and he has two legitimate plus pitches that blow guys away. I think Ben has a better arsenal for higher leverage, back end of the bullpen type of stuff. That being said, I mean, over the last 2-3 weeks, Hector Neris has been really good. He's a guy who's closed a lot of games up in the big leagues. So that's why you don't give up on guys in May. You don't give up on guys in April. So maybe Hector just had a slow start and needed to get back into the rhythm of things. And I would trust Hector Neris in a situation where you have to close the game because he's done it over the last 3 years. But if you're looking for something internal to replace him, I mean, I would rather go with guys like Ben Brown or Daniel Palencia than trade the farm for Mason Miller, who's a tremendous player, but I'm sure Oakland's going to ask a lot for him.
You've seen a lot of guys, come through the system. And as I just look at the current 26-man roster and some of the guys that have come through this year, like the Daniel Palencias, the Luke Littles, that maybe you can put them in the category of talent, but not quite refined yet. I think about the guys that have come up and been really successful with the Cubs, the Justin Steeles, the Jordan Wicks, the Javier Assads, and they were primarily starters at AAA and through the minors. Is there a world where maybe a Luke Little or a Daniel Palencia goes back to a starter role at Iowa just to get more innings so that they can come up a little bit more refined later in the year?
I actually think Luke is starting to get more refined with every outing. Yeah, in the extra innings, he got the win yesterday, his first big league win. He's only 23. I just see Luke more. He's so devastatingly good against lefties, and he throws 99. So I think just situationally, he's better as a reliever. Daniel Palencia is interesting because, he came back here with Iowa. It was right before his second stint up in the big leagues. And he made a spot start for Iowa. And he threw 2 innings, gave up 1 hit, struck out 4. He looked really, really good out of the starting rotation. And that's when he's obviously pitching from the lineup and not the stretch. There's something that might be there with Palencia where you might want to get him more innings. You might want him to, nail down his secondaries. He's starting to throw a splitter as well. So being able to get him back down here, throw the split up, throw the slider, make sure he controls the fastball at 99 to 101. I could see a world where Daniel Palencia is given the opportunity to stretch back out into a starter, but I do think that both of those guys have back end of the bullpen stuff. I mean, Luke Little's a 6'8" lefty who throws 99, and Daniel Palencia throws 101 mile per hour 2-seamers that end up on pitch ninja. That's back end of the bullpen type of stuff. So I think they're pretty good in that role.
I think that's where I want to go next with this is just that gap between AAA and the majors. It used to be talked about that the biggest gap, right, was somewhere kind of along from AA to AAA or single A to AA. And now it seems like it's really from AAA to the majors, at least based on results and also based on what you kind of hear JD talk about a lot on the broadcast. From your eyes, what is that gap right now? How do you kind of sum that up? From pitching. Both an offensive and pitching standpoint?
It's pitching. It's definitely pitching. I think you get here at the AAA level and you get guys who can command 2 pitches. At the AA level, single A level, 1.5 pitches. In the big leagues, they command 4. And there's no breaks. Like at the AAA level, you'll get an occasional, like let's say you're Matt Mervis. You'll face off against a soft-tossing right-handed pitcher that throws 90 to 92, just there to throw strikes. And they miss a pitch, and Matt hits it 394 feet, which he did it against J.C. Flowers yesterday. In the big leagues, if you're facing off against a right-handed pitcher who's coming out of the bullpen, there's no break. They're throwing 95 plus, every single one of them. And, let's say you have a right-handed starter. I mean, the majority of them are either high octane 95 to 97 mile per hour pitches or pitchers, or they're 92 to 95 with electric breaking stuff, or a great cutter, or an amazing sinker, and they're just pounding it on the hands, and they're breaking a lot of bats. So there's really no break at the big league level when it comes to talent. They're all good, and at the AAA level, most of them are good, but you'll find the occasional pitcher who makes a mistake that is not going to be made up in the big leagues. And I think that's the major difference.
You mentioned Matt Mervis. Do you think Matt Mervis is getting any sort of value from being back down at the AAA level to make adjustments? If the reason that you mentioned is the difference in pitching, and it's tough because the Cubs are trying to win right now and they may not have the patience right now, but do you see Matt Mervis being able to develop and be successful in this organization if he's not getting major league at bats?
I do. I mean, I think Craig Counsell said it best. It's back to the drawing board. So he comes down here and you go back to the drawing board. You talk to your hitting coordinators, you talk to your hitting coaches, and you're able to go through, trial and error here, where I'm not going to say it doesn't matter. It always matters to win ball games for your organization, but you're not doing it as part of a pennant race for $1 billion organization in a winnable division. You're able to do it down here. And if you're struggling on some things and you're frustrated, you're able to work through them. And in the big leagues, especially when you're coming up to the big leagues, you only get that time to work through it, especially when you're with the Chicago Cubs. Now, it's different if you're with the Miami Marlins, Oakland Athletics, Detroit Tigers, Chicago White Sox, teams that are either not in it right now or weren't expected to be in it in the first place. But you have the Cubs that have made moves over the last 3 years where they are supposed to win, and they have to win a winnable division. So Matt Mervis coming up for 25 at-bats and struggling, he understands that can't happen. So coming down here and being able to get 40, 45, 50 at-bats where you're really starting to figure things out, I think that definitely has value.
Were you surprised about PCA being sent back down to Iowa?
Yes and no. I mean, you look at his numbers at the big league level. I mean, he is a winning baseball player.
Yeah.
He had a 0.8 WAR, or 0.8 WAR. I mean, if you look at some of the outfielders in baseball, he's got a higher WAR than Corbin Carroll. He's got a higher WAR than Ronald Acuna. He's got the same WAR as Julio Rodriguez. Played 23 games. So he played winning baseball. That being said, you can already tell the difference with him being up there in the big leagues and then coming back down here and the way that he approaches his at-bats. He's only 22 years old, and I think Pete getting everyday at-bats is a big deal, because if you want Pete Crow Armstrong to be your center fielder of the future, or with the Chicago Cubs for 10 years, playing a pivotal role, being an all-star, I think at your 22-age season, there's a huge difference between getting 300 and 350 at-bats than getting 150 to 200 at-bats. And if he were to stay up in the big leagues, I think he'd help win some games, but you're also playing 2 times a week. You're coming in as a defensive replacement. You're coming in as a pinch runner. And at the end of the season, you're probably looking at 200 ABs, and that could potentially stunt his growth going forward. So I think he'll be up in the big leagues at some point. I'm not overly surprised now, but that being said, he's a winning baseball player. He's the type of baseball player right now for the Chicago Cubs that will help you win games. So from that standpoint, yeah, I think they could use him, and I think they'd want him.
What was the one thing as you watched him in his time in Chicago that you were either like, whoa, that's surprising, or B, like, no, yeah, that's what we missed last year. That's what I've been waiting for him to show up at the show?
I think that his 2023 stint up in the big leagues, he was really, really excited. And I think defensively, he was trying to make the highlight reel catch every play. And I think after he hit his first home run up in the big leagues, got that big bear hug from Dansby Swanson, he was able to relax, not only offensively, but defensively. He was one of the best defensive outfielders over the last month when he was up in the big leagues. A 0.7 defensive WAR. That is, I think, 12th in the big leagues right now, and he only played half the games. So you put that over the course of an entire big league season, he's a 4 WAR player, and he's a guy who's hitting 236 with 1 home run. So his value defensively is just so understated and underrated, and I think that he was able to show that for the most part during that 3-4 week stretch up in the big leagues.
How would you like to win a Cubs autographed piece of memorabilia? Steven won a Matt Shaw baseball Everett won a Brennen Davis auto, and Matthew won a Luke Little ball. And we have so many more that we're giving away. Cade Horton, Mark Leiter Jr., Ben Brown, Jordan Wicks, and more. How can you win these? Easy. All you have to do is be signed up for the Setup Man emailing list. Every month of 2024, I'll be putting every single name on our list into a virtual hat and drawing the winner. Plus, every now and again, I'll do some giveaways on my live videos. All you have to do is go to setupman.net, scroll down to the bottom, and put in your name and email. That's it. Sign up for our list, and you'll give yourself a chance to be one of our lucky winners. Hey, I want to take a quick minute to give Obvious Shirts a shout out and big thank you. Joe Johnson, the founder of Obvious Shirts, is a friend of the channel. And as a thank you, he is giving all of Setup Nation a 15% discount on Obvious Shirts merchandise for the 2024 season. Click on the link in the YouTube description below or go to obviousshirts.com and use the code TheSetupMan15, no spaces, all lowercase, at checkout. Thanks again to Obvious Shirts, and go Cubs. Hey, let's talk about a few guys that maybe we didn't think we'd be talking about right now. How about Brennen Davis and what he's been doing over the last, week, 2 weeks up there? How much fun is it seeing him healthy and doing what he's doing, what we thought he'd be doing with the Cubs at this point?
It's a smile on my face. I mean, he's been through so much since 2021 with not one, but 2 consecutive years where he had pretty serious injuries. And he comes back and he obviously starts the year back in Arizona. He was a little banged up after spring training where he had a great spring. Comes back here. It's like 125 on the first couple days. And then goes on a tear. And it's not a 3-day, 4-day, 5-day tear. It's a 10-game tear. When he goes 14 for 30, hitting 467 with 7 home runs, 15 runs batted in over a 10-game stretch. That's some legitimate work. My thing is you want to see that times 3. If you can do it for 30 days, if you can do it for a month, you're talking about prolonged success. But I think first and foremost, just making sure that Brennen Davis is healthy and gets ABs every single day, 3 to 4, whether he's a DH, whether he's a left fielder, and keeps on progressing through those at-bats. Doesn't strike out at a high rate. He's right around, big league average strikeout rate, and just hitting with power. I mean, he had 5 home runs in that series against Syracuse, hit a 430-foot home run, 113.7 miles per hour off the bat. That is not power that I've seen from him since 2021, so it's really nice to see.
Is it the same Brennen Davis from 21? Is it a different version of Brennen? Is there anything that he's missing from that 5-tool player he was that broadcasted as a 21 player?
No, I actually think some of his approach stuff at the plate's been better.
Wow.
I think that obviously he was 21 years old when he made his AAA debut. He was chasing more. He's not chasing as much right now. So awesome. I think that the approach in general has been better. Obviously, when you have 2 pretty severe injuries over the course of 24 months. You're waiting for that explosive athleticism to get back. He's still a plus fielder. I mean, the arm's still there, but I don't know if he ever had like true plus speed, but that would be just the only thing that I noticed, just the explosiveness out of the box. But in general, I actually think his hitting approach is better now than it was then.
I would say here in 24, it's a longer route for him to get to the majors. Just from a standpoint of with PCA up there, you already have 5 outfielders in Happ, Bellinger, Suzuki, Tauchman, and PCA. You almost have to think it's going to take a really, really bad slump from someone or a Bellinger getting moved over to first base or an injury. What's do you think the most likely route for Brennen to actually see time in the majors this year?
I think over a 162 game season, as we saw earlier in the year, injuries. I mean, we've already seen injuries to Nico Horner, Dansby Swanson, Cody Bellinger, Seiya Suzuki. Let's say something happens to Michael Busch, and then you have to put Cody Bellinger as your everyday first baseman. But then you have Seiya Suzuki. He gets banged up. So you bring Pete Crow Armstrong up, and then you have the decision between Alexander Canario and Brennen Davis. So I just think that you never want injuries to happen, but over the course of a 162-game season, the way that they are playing, they are bound to happen. So I think obviously the injury route would probably be the most direct line for that to happen. Also, I think having a universal DH, obviously in the National League now and the American League, I think that you can have the opportunity to bring up a hot bat that's on the 40-man for a 10, 15, 20-day stretch, because it's a 26-man roster and you have one position on the lineup that you're just hitting. So let's say you're facing off against a string of lefties. There's an opportunity where you can bring up Brennen Davis for 4, 5, 6 games a week, and maybe at that point sacrifice some infield depth when you have guys like Nick Madrigal who have options. So having guys with options really helps, and the Cubs have a lot of that. So there are some paths to Brennen Davis getting up to the big leagues with the Cubs.
Speaking of guys that might have a tougher route to the big leagues or back to the big leagues, David Bote also just on a tear. And I know this has been a little bit of a broken record where it's either spring training or it's AAA, where it's just like, hey, Bote is just destroying the ball. But right now, I look at it and I say, hey, listen, yes, he's not on the 40-man roster, but there's not a whole lot of value that Nick Madrigal, aside from defense, is adding to the Cubs right now. Miles Mastroboni has continued to struggle when he goes up. I know the 40-man roster is just like this brick wall that is really difficult for any organization to get by, but you can't ignore what Bote's doing right now, right?
No, you can't. I mean, as a baseball guy helping you win ball games, and I think I said it on the broadcast, there is no doubt in my mind right now that David Bote can, one, hit at the big league level, and two, help the Cubs offensively at the big league level. But unfortunately, it's a little bit more complicated than that. When you have, a 5-year deal and you're getting your money backloaded as part of that deal, and the luxury tax implications that it has on that deal, there's more than just the guy can play, let's get him up there. So I would love to see David Bote back in the big leagues. There's no doubt in my mind that he could help them in a situational standpoint, especially the way that he hits left-handed pitching. I think that he would help out a lot because he can play second, he can play third, he has some thump. I mean, there's a Patrick Wisdom comp to David Bote. I think Wisdom has a little bit more raw power, but Bote has some more defensive flexibility. I think that he could help the team, but again, it's more complicated than that.
Before we go to our very last question, I want to ask about Luis Vasquez. What should Cubs fans, and keep in mind, guys, we're recording this on Wednesday, not releasing this till Thursday. Maybe Luis Vasquez gets some playing time tonight for the Cubs. But before he does, I want to ask you, what should we expect as Cubs fans from Luis Vasquez?
He is a big league caliber defender at 3 different positions. He is an above average big league caliber shortstop. He's a guy who came into the Cubs organization as somebody who had really no offensive projection, and he's put that together to, last year between 2 levels, 20 home runs, and at the AAA level over the course of almost an entire year, 2022 to 2023 to 2024, hitting 270, 30-plus doubles per year, double-digit home runs, 355 on-base percentage. So I think it'll translate exactly like that to the big leagues? Probably not. But if he can somehow put together, 230, 240 batting average, 10 to 12 home runs, 20 to 22 doubles, 310, on base percentage, around a 700 OPS, with the way that he plays defensively, he's a winning baseball player, and he will help win you baseball games. I mean, he is not hyperbole. He's the best defensive shortstop I've seen at the minor league level. No joke. Wow.
Okay. I mean, that's better than above average shortstop in the major league level. You just said best minor league fielder you've seen. I mean,
at this point of his career, he's better at short than O'Neal Cruz was and Ellie was.
Okay, so then let's get real here. If Nick Madrigal is the defensive replacement right now for Christopher Morel in the 7th, 8th, 9th inning, should it not be Luis Vasquez?
He just hasn't played that much at third. He's only played, 5 games at third this year. I think that him being up there, he is by far the best replacement for Dansby Swanson at short, and he's probably the best replacement for Nico Hoerner at second. I just don't know. I mean, he played third a little bit last series, and he was fine. I think Nick Madrigal has a little bit more natural feel there. But I think that's something that he could pick up quickly. But in terms of defending at short, I mean, he is far and away your best option, aside from Nico Hoerner, who is a Gold Glove caliber player there as well.
Okay, I'm excited to see him. So, Alex, last question. Who are we not talking about right now that we maybe are going to see here in 2024 up at the Cubs? From your perspective, I know Ethan Roberts just came back. I know there's a few other guys. that maybe are turning your head, but who's like the one guy that maybe would be the surprise wild card here?
Well, we haven't talked about Owen Caissie at all. 21
Mm,
year old outfielder
yeah.
who, he comes up here. You're worried about the strikeout rate, the contact rate. Well, he's leading the team in walks. He's leading the team in on base percentage. He's leading the team in runs. He's leading the team in hits, leading the team in doubles, and the strikeout rate is dropping with every game. He is a legitimate five-tool outfielder. I think his defense is exceptionally underrated. He's one of the fastest players in the organization. He's a smart base runner. He is wise beyond his years at the plate. He's going to have a big league future for a long, long time. So I think Owen Caissie, I'm not going to say people are down on him, but he kind of flies under the radar when you're in an organization with the Pete Crow Armstrongs and the Kevin Alcantaras and other pitchers in the organization, the Cade Hortons and guys who are getting all the headlines. I think Owen Caissie deserves more headlines. I think that he is a double-digit year big leaguer, a guy who's going to spend a long, long time up there. BJ Murray Jr., switch hitting infielder, top 20 prospect in the Cubs organization. Got off to a really slow start, which he's done over the course of his minor league career. But I think BJ, what he did today, hit a home run from the right side. He's a switch hitting outfielder. He has 6 home runs this year, 5 from the left side, 1 from the right side. So he put one out today, and I think he's really starting to heat up. And when BJ Murray Jr. heats up, soft hands, great approach at the plate from both sides, he can legitimately hit at the big leagues. So I think those are the 2 guys that stick out to me that, yes, they're top 20 prospects in the organization, but they're not being thought of right now as big leaguers. And I think if we talk this time next year, those 2 guys are big leaguers.
The Iowa Cubs are a fun team to watch right now. And if you've got MLB.tv, make sure you tune in because you'll be hearing Alex Cohen's voice bringing you those broadcasts. Very, very cool stuff right now. Very exciting things going on. Alex, thanks so much for the time, man. Appreciate you jumping on here.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it. And go Cubs, go.